Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 13th of May. And I told you guys yesterday when I made my Monday video that I wasn't going to make one today probably, but here we are. So anyway, I have not had a chance to make that Washington cake yet, and I'll tell you why. Although I have some of the weird ingredients like rose water, strange one, I didn't have the wine. And if you were using that recipe, it said either brandy or a sweet wine, like port. You can use grape juice instead. So I would recommend like a red grape juice, so purple, not the white grape juice, because that's not as sweet. But since wine is literally alcoholic grape juice, you can totally do that if you're making it at home. So just tip for you on that. Okay, so I didn't have that. I don't have brandy or port or grape juice. Have the other weird stuff, but not that. So I haven't gotten around to trying to make that yet. Here's my cat. This is the one that was missing. Well, you saw her tail. Anyway, yeah, she came back. So that was really awesome, sort of. She's kind of a terror, but, I'm glad she's alive. There's that. And her brother does not cry at me all the time anymore. So that's fantastic too. Anyway, I wanted to give you that tip on the recipe in case you are trying to make it. And then I told you I was going to share some of my other historical recipe things with you. So the one that I think is most approachable for young people is the American Girl series. And not their books, but they have cookbooks. So you can choose any of their historical girls and look at a cookbook that is for their era. So like my girls have Felicity and Addie and Samantha. So like Felicity, they can do colonial type cooking, and that's what's in there. And then the others are their specific time periods. Kirsten is all pioneer recipes, and so that's a really good resource for you. Even if you're not into those series, the recipes in there are really tailored to be successful for young people today, to be able to get the ingredients and be able to read and understand the instructions. So especially if you don't cook a lot, that's a great way to go. And I know they have copies of that at our local library, which even though they are not necessarily open for you to go in, I'm not sure if they've opened up yet. But even during the closure, they are open for you to go online and reserve books, and then you can go pick them up from the pickup and drop off window. So fantastic resource there for any of you who are needing that or just reading material. So I'm going to show you some of my cookbooks so you have an idea of some of the things that are out there. I have quite a few. In fact, I have like two shelves on a bookshelf that are full of just cookbooks, and I've cleaned out a lot. I really probably should clean out some more because although I do use the books, most of the recipes that we all get are from online now. So, some of these I'm going to hold on to, but I probably should, just clean some of that out, have less clutter, because there are fantastic recipes available online, and, then I'm living around less stuff, which is always amazing. Okay, so I go to a lot of museums and historical places because, nerd. So I collect these things when I go there. So I took a trip to Gettysburg. It's a Civil War battlefield in Pennsylvania. Hopefully you've heard of it. We didn't really cover a lot of that in our class, but you can take classes. Well, you will take U.S. history classes, hopefully, in high school. I know that's when I took my in-depth U.S. history originally that cover that. And then in college, I took a class that specifically focused on just the Civil War. So it was really cool to get to go there. Emotional because a lot of people died there. Pretty much all Americans, Civil War. But I got some awesome cookbooks. So I have the Northern Ladies Civil War recipes. And if you guys are interested in recipes from any of these, ask me. You can reach out to me, right? You know where to email me. or Google Classroom me. Email's probably easier with these. And I can like give you an idea of what's in here. Specific recipe if you're looking for it. Then I also have a Confederate home cooking because, you know, the food of the North and South very different. They had, I talked to you yesterday a little bit about sometimes there are shortages during war. Also, the North was very much more industrialized and the South was more rural. So there was a lot more farming in the South. They had a very different kind of diet than the people in the North did. And then also it made it difficult because they were not transporting that food from the South to the North. So it changed what was available to them, and then also based on who they were trading with internationally as far as what kind of food imports they had. And actually that development and that difference in the kind of economy they had was a major contributing factor to the war as well. So then I also have Cooking for the Cause, which is also Confederate recipes, but it also has quotations and some other little tidbits in here. And so, you know, that's part of what happened in wartime is that they would talk about, especially with ladies, because women weren't in the military at that time and couldn't serve in that kind of capacity. So you could support the cause and show your support for the war by doing things at home, whether it was sewing uniforms or making, they specifically would focus also on food that was of their area. It was very, I can't think of the right word for it right now, but so they wanted to, like in the South, they were very patriotic about their cause, and they believed that this is, you know, that they were going the direction of where America should be and freedom. So both sides very much believed that, but especially in the South because some women were working in the North at this point already. They're working in production and mills and stuff. But in the South, a lot of women managed households and stuff. So they wanted to have, show their patriotism by doing those kinds of activities and by making foods that were very Southern. And, you know, if it was something that was a more Northern dish, they weren't going to make it because even if they had those ingredients, it wasn't for the cause and patriotic to do so. Anyway, so then I have Blue and Gray Cookery, which is both sides. So it's just authentic recipes of the Civil War in general. And I think that's pretty much it for my Civil War cookbooks. But, you know, how many do you really need, right? Probably less than me. You probably need 0 because you're just going to look up recipes online. But then, let's see, I have some other neat ones. That's going way back in history, but there's stuff that is much more recent too. So like, I am super into diners. If you've watched any of my videos that I've made in my eating in my kitchen, it is a diner theme. And I love that time period, the 50s and into the 60s. Okay, I love all of history. Let's be honest. You know, there are some times where I think it would be cool to have lived and others really not. But that time I particularly like, you know, sock hops and hamburgers, milkshakes. That's when we got, if you guys remember the timeline that you made for inventions in our classroom, that's the one there was the development of like McDonald's. The drive-through was a new idea at that time. So a lot of really fun American really developments in culture happened at that time. So I have the Rock and Roll Diner. And this doesn't seem as much, you know, in the past because it's like within your grandparents' lifetime. My dad was born in 1950. So, you know, it's within his lifetime. But it still is a historical recipe, and some of these things have changed since that time, you know. So it's kind of neat to look at that. And, yeah, so it's in a box even. Holy cow. Tells you how often I get this out. And, oh, this one has a CD. Yes. Oh, there's some good songs on here. Yeah. I like 50s music, too. Kind of my jam. All right. So, it has... Oh, see, this even has background on, like, Tutti Frutti is one of the popular songs of the time. So, kind of neat. And maybe if you are making, like, there's a recipe in here for pot roast, maybe you're going to try something like that out. Might be really cool to listen to some music of the time. You can do that even with, like, if you're going back to Civil War time. They had music, believe me, and you can find it. So, also from that kind of era, I have the Elvis cookbook. Also an Elvis fan. I kind of love him. I'm not as into him as girls of the time were, but I do enjoy his music. And I bought this when I visited Graceland, which is his home in Tennessee. So, it's the kind of food that he really enjoyed. And then I even bought a couple of postcards when I was there with roast beef that he likes and meatballs and bacon. I don't know. Meatballs and bacon sounds kind of weird to me, but Elvis liked some interesting things like peanut butter and bananas. I believe that was his favorite sandwich. And then there's a recipe in here I remember making that was for a banana pudding that has like vanilla wafers in it and stuff. And my family didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. So anyway, kind of neat, different, right? Different things to try. So that's really what I'm trying to encourage you to do, is try some different stuff. All right. Okay. I also have, I should have organized it a little better before I talked about it. I have rock and roll recipes. So again, that same time period. Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple more different ones I want to talk to you about. One is pioneer recipes, because those are kind of applicable to where we live. So I like getting to know where we are even better. So I love going out to national parks, national monuments, historical places in Arizona. I did not grow up here, so I want to know more about it. And I'm kind of that way everywhere that I've been. And I love traveling around our country to learn more about that stuff. So obviously I went to Pennsylvania and Tennessee and, you know, these other places because I want to really be able to feel that history. And there's, you know, that's part of why I've given you assignments like the virtual field trip this week, where you can kind of go and see it online. It's not the same as being there, but, you know, to give you a feel of what there is in our country and be able to experience that history, because it's very different getting to go there and, you know, or even go there virtually and have that understanding rather than just reading about it, which makes me so sad for our friends who have to do the packet right now because they don't have access to that online component and they can't do that tour. They have to just read an article about Washington's home and have to deal with it that way. And so hopefully next year during school, when we're all together, we'll be able to do more of that stuff. And you know, anyway, so pioneer recipes I think really apply to us here because westward expansion, you guys should all know that because that's like a second grade thing that you learn. I remember my daughter learned about it last year in second grade. So I have the Pipe Spring cookbook, which is original pioneer recipes. Pipe Spring is here in Arizona. So, yeah, in fact, Pipe Spring National Monument is in Arizona. There you go. And so it's all recipes and very much stuff that they ate that are a little bit different. So There's a dried peach pie because you couldn't bring fresh fruit really with you. That was kind of hard, right? You know, think like driving in the car. And if you're going to be driving for like across the country and you're not going to be able to stop for food, you have to pack it with you. You probably take like dried fruit and crackers and stuff because those things are going to keep. You know, you don't want to be 2 days into your trip and all your food be gross, right? Because they didn't have an ice chest either. So dried peach pie, they're gonna be rehydrating dried fruit in order to use it, because the drying really was a preservation process. So you could eat it dried, or you could soak it in water if you had it, rehydrate it, and turn it into something that you normally would use the fresh fruit for. So like a pie. They also have molasses pie, which I'm pretty sure none of us have ever had molasses pie, because it's a pie shell and molasses, butter, eggs, and salt. I don't see those at the grocery store, so probably none of you have had it. Might be interesting, right? Definitely different from the stuff we eat today. So I like that it gives us, this one specifically, a view into Arizona's past. All right, moving on, I have the Log Cabin Cooking, Pioneer Recipes, and Food Lore. I like this one because it has food lore, which, like, there's certain foods that you wouldn't eat, or you'd eat only, you'd eat on certain special occasions. They have stuff about stomach lore. It's a strong stomach that has no turning. When the stomach speaks, wisdom is silent. Oh, that's so true. That one's an Arab proverb. That's like, when you're hungry, you can't think right. I think we all know that. It's hard. Like, we have class right before lunch. Ooh, difficult. All right. I have also the Prairie Home Cooking. So this one's a fat one. Look at that. It's a big boy. Yeah, it's 400 recipes that celebrate the bountiful harvest, creative cooks, and comforting foods of the American heartland. So this is a little bit more the middle of the country, but still people who are coming west, right? Because they had to cross the prairie in order to get here. So a lot of them stopped there along the way. If you've ever read or watched Little House on the Prairie, this is that kind of cooking. So, yes. Let's see. I have like 6 more books to show you. All right, so I have Cowboy Cookbook, Home Cooking on the Range, which is over 300 recipes from the world's greatest cowboys. So some of these, obviously, we have John Wayne here. Not a real cowboy. Really awesome actor, dude. Not a real cowboy, though. So you can see it's a little bit Hollywood. But, you know, right here, see, we're looking at a little bit Hollywood here, but still very much, you know, that Wild West feel. Yeah, see, Clint Eastwood, also great Western actor, not a real cowboy though, right? Still a lot of fun, and definitely different from what we eat now, because they went for a really authentic kind of feel here. Then I have Cowboy Cooking, Authentic Recipes from the Campfire, which this is, there we go. These are actual recipes that cowboys would make, and you have to keep in mind, like, they're out on the range for a long time, because it's not like the way that they run cattle in our community now, where we have closed grazing land, and they put them on a parcel and leave them, and then they come back and they check on them, and then they'll come pick them up and move them to another space that they lease or onto their own rangeland that is owned by the cowboys. No, this is very different. They had to actually travel with them, and if you wanted to take them to market, you didn't just load them on a truck. You had to actually like go on a cattle drive. Like, that was that's why it's called that. So they would have to actually go for a long time, and so you have to take your food with you, or you're having to eat stuff along the way. They had to know native plants and a lot of that stuff. They ate a lot of their own beef or beef jerky, Oh wow, the whole center of this opens up. I haven't used this in a while. Look at this. It's like huge in the middle. Wow. I think I know what I'm going to be doing over the summer is making some of these because wow. Buffalo steaks smothered with sweet pepper salsa. I kind of want to make that now. They also have some that you really can't make. So you could make your own beef jerky. That's totally cool. But you can't make snapping turtle stew. It's kind of illegal. So, yeah. You can't eat turtle in this country anymore. You could. During your grandparents' lifetime, my parents, you could actually buy canned turtle soup, like, at the grocery store. Bless you. My cat sneezed. But you can't anymore, so that's not a thing. But interesting to look at, you know. You can definitely compare to what we eat today. All right, just a few more. We have another Historic Communities Pioneer Recipes. So just some more pioneer stuff. They ate a lot of really hearty food because when you're working the land, if you've ever done manual labor, helping to build something, gardening, where you have to work like hours. I'm not talking about like you just go out and like plant a couple flowers in a box. But if you had to actually work, like you are so hungry at the end of that day. So that's part of why a lot of times men worked the land and then children would do support work and gardening and then women would be cooking because you needed someone to be cooking and like you had to bake your own bread and do all that stuff. So you needed to have that ready when it was time to eat because like you couldn't just microwave a Hot Pocket, right? And you're like down for a big steak meal and like if there's no one there to make you food, great, you just worked all day and now you have to try and figure out food too. So that's kind of why they separated the jobs because it made sense. Okay. So I'm down to 3 more that I want to share. This one I actually bought. I'm not sure. I think I bought this at the Charlotte Hall Museum. I'm pretty sure. And if I didn't, I bought it in the Friends of the Prescott Valley Library bookstore because I used to go in there a lot. I stay out of there now because I don't need more books in my life. I need to like enjoy the ones I have and then just like borrow books. Okay, so this is the Billy the Kid cookbook. So, very famous, Billy the Kid, and a lot of history in the in our area with him. So, I don't know that he did a lot of cooking himself. You know, he doesn't seem like the kind of person who really would do that. But it's recipes and folklore from Billy the Kid country. So this area where he would have been. So it's probably the kinds of things that he would have experienced and eaten. So if you find outlaws fascinating, there you go. You could eat zucchini pancakes that he might have eaten. Or actually, I've had those. Or Navajo beans, Indian tacos. Oh, we all love those. So anyway, that's a pretty cool one. Last 2, I have Secrets of the Great Old Timey Cooks. So sometimes there's neat things that they did that we can learn from, that we've forgotten. But yeah, so there's that one. Kind of neat. But they also wrote their recipes very differently. So if you look up here, this is a roast beef pie with potato crust. It's from 1915, and you see how this recipe is written very differently than recipes we've used in class, or probably any that you have seen. So I'll read it to you really quick. All right. Chop cold cooked meat and place in a glass casserole dish. To each cup of meat, pour in 1/3 cup gravy or 1/4 cup water. Add salt and pepper to taste, some finely chopped onion, and a little parsley. Spread mashed potatoes as a crust over the meat. Bake in a 350-degree oven until golden brown and bubbly. So, in order to make that, you have to know how to make gravy. You have to know how to make mashed potatoes. You have to be measuring your stuff. You have to, like, it doesn't tell you how much of anything really, other than your ratio of meat to gravy or water, because it's 1/3 cup gravy or 1/4 cup water. So you already have to know how to make these other things. There's no ingredient list to go by. You just kind of gotta like know it. And this is not just this book. This is how recipes used to be, because you learned those things in your home growing up. So you would just know how to make that. And I can tell you for sure that's how they wrote recipes, because I have some recipes from my great-grandmother who immigrated from Germany. And wow, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry. There's a fashionable duck dining attire. It's a duck hat. It's literally a duck made into a hat. That's crazy. Yeah. But I guess if you're eating duck for dinner, it's fashionable. Weird. You know, I have an appreciation for this stuff. I will make and wear historical outfits. I am never going to wear a duck hat. That's no. I have a pet duck too, so it's like that's a little weird for me, you know. Anyway, but yeah. So my great-grandmother, I have some recipes of hers, and they're totally written like this. And thank goodness, my mom was an economics major, home economics. Not regular economics, home economics. That used to be a thing. That's like her college degree is in home economics. And so I learned that stuff growing up. And so I can understand and read her recipes, but other people have said, oh, hey, how do you make this? And I'm like, well, I can share the recipe. You want it? And then they look at it and they're like, what the heck? So, you know, you kind of got to rewrite some of that stuff, or do some extra research and learning, understanding. Hopefully, with your experiences from our cooking class that we're going to hopefully get more in depth with next year, for next year's 8th graders, you have some of the skills that you could maybe figure it out. But, you know, it's challenging. All right, and my last book that I wanted to share is historical. But I thought you guys would have a little bit of a different interest in this one, kind of like the Billy the Kid one. This is the Alcatraz Women's Club Cookbook. So, Alcatraz Island Prison off of San Francisco. It's in San Francisco Bay. And this one is particularly interesting to me because that's where I grew up, was in San Francisco. And I actually did not visit Alcatraz until I was an adult. I took my kids there for a trip, but I had never been there before. It was open a long time ago. It's not a prison anymore. It is now a national park that you can go visit. If you ever have the chance, I definitely recommend it. Super interesting. But the guards who worked in the prison actually lived there with their families, and then their children would like go to school and come back. Anyway, so this is recipes from the wives of the prison guards. Yeah, kind of interesting. And it has their names too, so you know exactly whose recipes they are. So, like Mrs. Catherine Valentino contributed a plain sponge cake recipe. And then Mrs. Louise Evans gave us a prune cake. Yum. But you'll see notes like, so Mrs. Valentino tells you that you should use only Presto flour, which is a specific brand, because it has baking powder added. So pressed dough flour isn't a thing anymore. That could be challenging. However, when you see baking powder added, it just means self-rising flour. So you can purchase flour that says self-rising on it, or like recently when we had the trouble with shortages of food in our grocery stores, my mom needed some self-rising flour for something, and I was at the grocery store looking for her, and I was like, hey mom, they don't have any flour. Or you can always just add your leavening yourself. That works too. However, they do have Bisquick. Bisquick, pancake / biscuit mix, is basically just a self-rising flour. So now you know that too. Anyway, I have talked to you for about half an hour about a whole huge stack of historical cookbooks, and I have a whole collection of cultural cookbooks too. So yeah, there's a lot that we could go into with cooking, and hopefully we can find some stuff in here in the cultural stuff so we can connect it with social studies and other things that we're learning, and we'll do a lot more of that next year. So I'm really sorry if you're in 8th grade and you're graduating. I wanted to cook with you more this year, but I didn't really have a lot of budget for it. So that, and then also if you didn't do your work during SAP time, you know, we kind of had to skip the cooking and art, which was sad. But hopefully next year we'll get to do a whole lot more of that. I love doing that stuff, and I'm super excited to get to do more of it with you. And yeah, so I'm gonna be done for now, and I will see you guys on the Zoom later today, and I'm really looking forward to that, and also looking forward to your recipes and stuff that you send me, because a couple of the recipes that people in 8th grade sent me when I gave the cooking challenge before, I have actually tried making, or I'm planning on trying to make, and some of that stuff was like super delicious. So thank you. You're contributing to, you know, my COVID-19 belly too. No, but really thank you. I love seeing the stuff that you guys are doing and hearing about it, and I feel like a little bit connected with you guys when I get to make that food too and try it, because then, you know, we're eating the same stuff, even if it's like on different days and we can't be together, because I miss you guys. And yeah, so I'll see you on the Zoom later. Thanks for watching.